Jazz dance is a very unique type of dance that focuses on the way the body moves to the type of music playing and is defined as a broad range of dance performed to jazz music. It was found in the rhythms and movements of African dance brought over to the U.S. from slaves, and it has its roots in late 1800s to mid 1900s African American social dances such as the Charleston, cakewalk, and jitterbug. According to Dance Connection in the 1910s, Joe Frisco was one of the most popular jazz dancers. His style of dance was dancing close to the ground with loose limbs, all while juggling his cigar and hat. Around the end of the 1950s, Katherine Dunham, one of the pioneers of jazz dance, captured Caribbean traditional dance and turned it into a performing art. She challenged racial barriers held in both modern dance and the educational system. She founded the Katherine Dunham Dance Company, which was devoted to African American and Caribbean dance, according to the Katherine Dunham Centers for Arts and Humanities website. According to AllAboutThatJazz.com, the Harlem Renaissance was a movement that changed the American cultural landscape forever. The Harlem Renaissance was a cultural movement from 1919 to 1930 that started in the Harlem neighborhood in New York. It was a movement that led to many African Americans embracing Black heritage and culture in American life. Jazz dance was one of the biggest ways for African Americans to express themselves during this time. William Grant Still was one of the most well-known composers and artists during this time. He used his symphony to embrace African American culture. The Harlem Renaissance was used to dismiss blackface and other racially down-putting ideals. It was one of the cultural factors that influenced and changed jazz, all while bringing it to more popularity. Jazz dance eventually evolved on Broadway with a newer, smoother style known as modern jazz. Bob Fosse was the jazz dancer who popularized this style. According to Britannica.com, Bob Fosse had a unique style of dance that used props, provocative steps, and signature moves. He is known for turning comical dances and situations into more introspective and darker plots. He began his career in film work, and he was inspired by Fred Astaire, who danced in many famous movies in the 30s, and Jack Cole, who is considered the father of jazz technique. He has influenced many popular artists such as Beyoncé and Michael Jackson. He also worked on many productions, including Sweet Charity in Chicago. The jazz technique is all about center control. Jazz dancers use core stability in all their dancing. Isolations are a main technique in jazz dance. An isolation is where a single body part is moved instead of the whole body. These can be shown through jazz hands, ripples, contractions, kicks, drag runs, and layouts. Jazz dance is a heavy reflection of my personal aesthetic. I like how the movements are simple and very well put together, but at the same time, as you watch a jazz dance performance, they move quickly and sharp. I like how the dancers go on beat with the music, and when there's a pause in the music, the dancers do a sharp pause as well. When we did the All That Jazz Dancing class, I liked the way our arms moved as we walked to the beat. I liked the short, snappy movements and how the dance was kind of risque in a way. I think that the snappy movements and the dancers being on beat really is what fits my aesthetic the best. The discoveries I made while doing my research is I did not know that Bob Fosse had influenced Beyoncé. I had known he had a heavy influence on Michael Jackson, but I did not know he was an inspiration behind Beyoncé's Single Ladies music video. According to Billboard, people are calling it imitation, but I believe it was inspiration. Bob Fosse was the inspiration behind many artists, and I was not expecting to see Beyoncé called out for it. I also learned that jazz has been around for a very long time and that it gained popularity during the Harlem Renaissance. Growing up, my dad would always play jazz music throughout the house and in his car. I grew up listening to jazz music whenever I was around him. He loved watching musicals that included jazz dance, and me and my brothers would always watch them with him. That's why I picked jazz dance as my topic, since I grew up around it. In conclusion, jazz dance is a form of dance that has a very deep cultural background. It is a dance form that has changed since it began but has always kept its roots.